As you can see, the bike is packed and ready to go, and I'm just going to enjoy my cappuccino before I hit the road. 60km day today, across the border into Slovenia and staying at the Big Berry campsite. Small uphill section and then mainly flat afterwards, or so I think. Anyway, I'll show you some videos from the road and I'll catch you later. Cheers for now. So, as I left, I followed the GPS, and this should have been a nice 60km day, and the road should have been nice and easy. However, the GPS decided to take me on its mystery route once more, so I ended up going on a quiet country lane like this, which I thought, yep, this is fine, this is what I come to do bicycle touring about, that's cool. And then it started to become a little bit more overgrown, and at this point I thought, I think the GPS is going to do its normal thing, which is lead me either to a dead end, through a grass field, or up a rough track. So you can take your pick now as to which one that was, but it was the rough track. So sometimes this GPS is good, and it's not the fault of the GPS, it's just the fault of the mapping system, because the road would have been set to sealed, apparently. And to start off with, it is sealed, but eventually it becomes unsealed. So the GPS is something to be used as a guide, but not something to be relied on. As I'd only got a short day in mind, I thought, well, it doesn't matter, let's see it through, see where it goes. And where it went was up this very, very rough track, which eventually I couldn't cycle because it was too steep, so then I had to grind to a halt and get off and push. But I suppose it's all part of the adventure, and it's not like, you know, it wasn't that far that I had to push it. So I pushed it for about 250 metres, although that was all the way uphill, unfortunately. And I don't normally agree with pushing bicycles, by the way, I should say. You should always cycle when you can, but it was, at this point, impossible for me to cycle. The road was too rough, and the steepness of the angle was just too much to move the bike. But there we go. Well, you know, I had nothing better to do that day, did I? So once I left this rough track, eventually, I hit a sealed road again. And this was a nice road to follow, actually. So I'm now cycling through Croatia and heading towards the Slovenian border. And this road was a very nice one to follow. It was sealed all the way, very quiet, just the occasional traffic, one way or the other, but nothing like the main roads. And as you can see, there was trees on both sides, and you know, I passed through countryside, and yeah, it was very serene. And I've been led to believe that Slovenia is a very beautiful country, and at this stage, I wondered if Slovenia would look like this. And as I'm doing the commentary a couple of days later, I shan't reveal yet what Slovenia's like. You'll have to watch the next videos. Haha. So it was going to be another border crossing eventually, and but until then there was just a few kilometres to go. I timed my currency quite well as well. So at this point I had 3 kunars left in my pocket. 3 kunars is worth about 50 euro cents, by the way. So and I tend to do that. I tend to plan to the last day, and I work out what I can spend my final currency on, just to get rid of it, because obviously, you know, a kunar is no good anywhere else other than in Croatia. And yeah, so there we go. And if you remember yesterday, I said the nature of the houses was changing, the design of the houses, and they looked almost Austrian or Germanic in a way. And it was the same on for this little ride coming up to the border as well. So yeah, it was all very pretty and very nice. And with the memory of that rough track behind me, this was a good day's cycle. In the end, it worked out to be about 72 kilometres, I think, in total. But yeah, that was all good. And obviously, I was heading towards Big Berry campsite, so I had my destination in mind as well. So everything was cool. So what else should I talk about then? Thoughts on Croatia. I liked cycling through Croatia. I was a little bit disappointed with Dubrovnik, as I mentioned in a couple of videos. One of which has not got the greatest feedback from Croatian people, but sorry, you know, if that's the way I feel, it's the way I feel, I can't pretend otherwise. But the rest of the country, from northwards, from Split onwards, I thought the people were great, I thought the views were great, the coast, the countryside. Yeah, so I think Croatia is definitely a country I would like to discover more about. I'd like to do some more bicycle touring. I've stuck to the coast mainly, but it would be nice to look at the inland section a little bit more. And it was actually at this point on the tour I realised that I'd left the coast behind me now, and I probably won't be seeing the sea until I get on the ferry from France to England at some point. So yeah, I'd probably miss my little swims, unless there's a river to swim in. Maybe there's one in the Big Berry campsite, you never know. Again, you'd have to check some other videos out, won't you? So, as you can see, there's some very pretty looking buildings here, and at this point I thought, yeah, we're slowly transitioning into Slovenia. So to me it's always curious where borders are and why there's a border there, and are people completely different one side of the border than the other side. It's always an interesting question to answer. The part of the border that I was heading to is separated by a river. So it's obvious why the border's there. It's like a natural border. And you find that with some countries there's a natural border of mountains or a river. It's the countries which don't have a natural border, it was like put in place after a war or something. They're normally the countries where it's, they're a little bit stranger. But this is more of a natural border that I'm heading towards. So again, with border controls, all fairly straightforward. I cycled up and through one border section, and he kind of waved me through. And then at the Slovenian entrance to the border, he took my passport and had a look in it in more detail after scanning it. I think it was more interesting just where I'd travelled to than anything else. But I don't know, each to their own. Not a very interesting job, I imagine, being in charge of the checkpoint on a border crossing. And I think we're getting to the border crossing section in a little bit, so I'm probably preempting the excitement that you're going to feel when you see the actual video itself. Sorry about that. So yeah, just cycling through, cycling on, here we go. So one day I'll probably run out of things to say on these videos, won't I? But I don't think that day is coming anytime soon. I can always find something to talk about at some point. So here we go. This is me leaving Croatia. And I thought, okay, do I have to show my passport to anyone? And there was no one in the little box. So you obviously don't need to be checked out of Croatia. So yeah, just carried on through. And then crossed the bridge. Which is obviously over the river that I was on about, and this must be the River Kolpa. And over the other side of the bridge, that's the checkpoint or the border crossing to enter into Slovenia. And as I mentioned, once I got to the checkpoint, I just handed my passport over, and the guy just sat there and looked at it for a while, and then away I went. And that was it. I was into another new country. So the new countries on this trip for me so far have been Albania. What was the other ones? Croatia, Montenegro, and a small part of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And now we're in Slovenia, another new country. And I think I'm here for about a total of 10 days. And the Big Berry campsite are hosting me for 3 nights, which is very kind of them. Thank you very much. And this is me now in Slovenia. Now, to you, it might not seem very different than the country that just left behind, but immediately I could sense that it's very different. Everything seems to be beautiful or neat, or it's designed with the aesthetic quality in mind. It's hard to explain, but the houses and the churches are all different. There's lots of flowers in flower pots in the windows, and there's more attention to detail. The grass is mown. And I could tell that I was in a different country. So there was a small transition period, as I said, between the border, but this is now a new country, and a very pretty country it is. And from the very little that I saw on the cycle to the campground, I could tell that it was going to be a beautiful country, and one that I think I'm going to enjoy a lot. So what else is there to say, really? I headed towards the campground. I came across a cycle path, which was good. Slovenia has tried to make a push for bicycle tour and attracting cyclists. Slovenia is trying to develop tourism, but I think it's going about it in the right way. It doesn't want mass tourism. It wants to specialise in certain areas, because Slovenia is famous for its countryside and the open spaces. It's got a low population. The last thing they need are 10 million tourists a year. They don't need that, and I don't think they want that. I think what they want to do is maintain the quality of life they've got, but invite more people into the country. And I don't know. I think little things like the bicycle paths. I mean, this is only one that I've been on, but if these are throughout the cities and something, it's a major step up from the countries that I've been to. I mean, a bicycle path in Greece is just a joke. And and actually Albania had better bicycle paths than Greece. I didn't really see many at all in Croatia. There were a couple, as I mentioned, where they ended abruptly at a supermarket, but it wasn't like a part of the infrastructure. And I got the feeling just from that little section that they built the road and thought, okay, I'm going to have a bicycle path, not just like a little tiny section for bicycles, which was, again, very nice. So I'm just cycling through a couple of towns. I stopped off in the supermarket to buy some supplies. Local currency is the euro, so back to using the euro now, which I'll use all the way through until France, until I cross to the UK. Apart from Hungary, I'm due to go to Hungary at some stage. And that's about all I've got to say. I rolled into Big Berry Campground at about 3 in the afternoon, and as I said, they're going to put me up for 3 nights whilst I stay there, and I'm going to just explore the area. They're going to take me around and show me some things. I'll visit some local businesses, find out a little bit about Slovenia. And that's all I've got to say for this one. So, take it easy guys, and I will speak to you on the next video. Cheers for now. Good morning everyone, how's it going? So I've had a nice few days rest here at the Big Berry campground in Primostek. Thank you very much for hosting me. And it's time to hit the road again. So I am heading to a place called Brestanica. It's about a 70-kilometre cycle ride. Small uphill to start off with, 250 metre ascent, and then after that it's downhill and flats. Or so the GPS tells me, but we'll see. It is raining today, unfortunately. The weather forecast says it will ease off at about 10 o'clock, so I'm going to wait until then to load the bike up, then hit the road and get on with it. So, I'll give you some videos for the road and speak to you all later. Cheers for now. Oh yeah, the rain. It makes you wet. You know what I mean. Sorry, I lost myself there. So as you can see, it was raining as I left, so I waited till 10, but the rain didn't ease off. So I just put the wet weather gear on and hit the road. Not to worry, it's all part of the fun, apparently. Actually, I don't mind cycling in the rain. It's I sometimes just get on with it and don't really think about it. It's the thought of starting which is actually harder than cycling in the rain, if that makes any sense. Anyway, so I carried on. I'd done some of this route a couple of days earlier. If you check out my video about the half-day bicycle tour of the area that I've been staying in, you can see some of the places that I went, and obviously then the sun was a little bit brighter. As it was, even though it was raining, I'm passing by some beautiful rural scenes. You get these houses and they have like a long slope roof on one side, some of them, and also there's like little barns where they dry hay as well. Everything's like kept really neat and tidy, and I was thinking as I was cycling, what makes Slovenia different than the other countries I've cycled through? And I think there's 2 or 3 things which are immediately apparent. So the first one is that there's no rubbish. So in the other countries that I've cycled through, Greece, Albania, Montenegro, blah blah blah, there's always rubbish floating around the countryside. There's plastic bottles or plastic or empty tins or cans, and in Slovenia there's just really isn't that. And on the roadside there's plenty of places where you can do recycling, so you can see there's a little bin on the side here. Plenty of places to recycle, so Slovenia is a very, very neat and tidy country. The other thing that's missing is the graffiti, which plagues some countries, Greece in particular, or Athens in particular in Greece. But I've not really seen any graffiti here. I mean, there's bound to be some in Ljubljana, if that's how you pronounce the capital of Slovenia, not that I could visit there. But yeah, there's just none here, so I'm just left with the impression of things looking neat, tidy, orderly, and it's like people take pride in things. So, cycling along, came across another cycle lane. There was a few of these today. It seems that when there's a new road being developed or a road resurfaced, they're adding a cycle lane. So this is a great thing on the one hand, because obviously there's a cycle lane, brilliant. But on the other hand, it does give a disconnected network of cycle lanes. So this might only last for a kilometre and then it will finish. But, you know, 10 out of 10 for effort. I'd like to see more of these. I think it should be a law that if you're going to resurface or make a new road, there should have to be a cycle lane there. I think it only makes sense to get people out of cars and cycling. And that's, you know, it just makes sense, doesn't it? Of course it does. So, obviously, as you can see now, it stopped raining. So it was off with the wet weather gear and dry out a little bit in the sun. And pedalling along, you never really know what you're going to see next. There's lots of churches in the background and open fields, and then I came down into this little valley and a river running by the side of it, and then I followed this along, and this lasted until I got to Brestanica, which is where I'm staying. And this is totally different than the hilly rural areas that I saw. So this was behind me is a very busy town or city. It had a huge shopping mall, and then I come to this idyllic sort of entrance to the town itself, and you've got all these quaint houses. There's a church in the background. Even the sky cleared up perfectly to give me this great image here. So Brestanica, what's Brestanica famous for then? Well, it's famous for its castle. And this is a picture of the castle there. It's a very sort of Germanic castle rather than a British castle with its moat and bailey. And it's also famous for its churches. So there's one church there, and I'm literally just opposite the road from this very, very impressive church here. So that's all the cycling done for today. It was about 75 kilometres. Tomorrow's 90 kilometres, and I'll talk to you about it then. Cheers for now. Good morning everyone, the start of another beautiful day. This is the first night I'd spent in a hostel, and I paid €20 for the bed and breakfast, and I ended up in a private room, so that was fine by me. And even better than that, when I went down for breakfast, there appeared to be a Slovenian all-female college basketball team staying here as well, so that wasn't the worst breakfast I've ever had. Excellent. Anyway, moving on, it's time to think about the cycling for the day. And I'm going to be doing 90 kilometres through a national park forest area, heading to a place called Maribor, and that's about it. I'll give you some videos from the road and speak to you guys later. Cheers for now.
So, cycling out of Brestanicia then. I noticed today that there was quite a lot of families out on bikes and people taking general exercise, and yeah, it was a good sight to see that. It's not something I'd noticed in the other countries I've travelled through. In the UK, obviously, you sometimes get people go out as families and they'll go for a bike ride. In Northampton, where I live, there's a Pitchford Reservoir and people go for a bike ride around there. But in the countries I've cycled through so far, I've not seen that. So this is the first country where I've seen families doing outdoor activities, and a great sight it is too. So the thing that you just saw, that was outside of a school, and that was like a mosaic on the outside. It wasn't actually street art. And I thought I'd film this because this is the closest I've seen in Slovenia so far of my idea of what a communist country apartments look like, because Slovenia is just not like that at all. I mean, obviously I'm in the rural part, and today I actually cycled through a national park as well, which was quite good. So that was even more rural than normal. And I've been noticing, and I've mentioned it before, the little barns, and I'm really fascinated by these barns now. So I've got quite a few photos and videos of them, and in this video you'll see a few. So you can see how it's, I don't know what it is about them, but I just find them really sort of like attractive in a old rustic kind of way. And the more you look at them, the more detail you realise they have. Like there'll be intricately carved beams, and on the outside there'll be sort of like little personal details. And yeah, I really like them. Anyway, cycling through the national park area. Today was a little bit, it felt a bit of a slog, to be honest. Total ascent for the day was 1,000 metres, which compared to the big day that I did a few days ago, 1,600 metres, is nothing. But it just seemed that every hill was a very, very steep uphill, and there was no real flat sections to speak of. But there's no denying that Slovenia is a beautiful country. In terms of countryside, so far on this trip, this is the most beautiful countryside that I've seen. It's, no matter where you look, it's pristine, it's green, it looks amazing. So, I mean, I really want to come back to Slovenia and work out some bicycle touring routes. And if anyone was asked me, or was thinking of planning a bicycle trip in Europe, I would definitely suggest Slovenia. Now, it is hilly, so you do need a certain level of fitness, but it's an easy country to cycle around, but it's also incredibly beautiful and untouched as well. So, yeah, it definitely gets my recommendation. So this gives you an idea of the steepness of the hill. I'm going downhill on this section, but this truck is coming up. And yes, there are some steep bits. Another barn. This one was really fascinating. Yeah, I don't know, I just love them. I really do love them. So why have a boring building when you can have like a cool building? Yeah. And I like all the buildings in Slovenia so far. There's just like a touch of personality and about them all. And it's what makes Slovenia stand out, I think, in the countries that I've cycled through. And like I said before, there's this pride in appearance, and things are well kept, and you know, there's no rubbish in the countryside. It's just a great country to cycle around. I just stopped going on about it really, but it really is that good. When I was cycling, I just veered off and went into a little town section because this church caught my eye. There is also a castle in this town as well, but I didn't get a chance to go and see it. The one thing when you're on a bike tour, you really do have to judge what you can see and when you can see it. For me, it's seeing the countryside. That's the thing that I like doing. It's absorbing.
Hi guys,
everything.
I'm about halfway into today's journey and looking for somewhere to stop, maybe have a cup of coffee. Can you see the name of that cafe? Yeah, I'm gonna give that one a miss, so not too sure what's going on there. I might be in hillbilly country. Catch you later.
But I didn't go into that cafe just in case, because you'll never know. So, yeah, cycling, and I was mentioning the steepness. and that gives you an idea of just how steep it is, which is great if you were going downhill, but I was just about to go uphill on there. But again, the churches in the towns really stand out, and I even found a couple of small cycle paths. They weren't particularly well signposted, so I had to keep my eye on where the road was. The road was up and to my right at this point, and if the cycle path got too far off track of the road, then I needed to go and check out, and get off the cycle path and back to the road again. But it was all good using those cycle paths, and again I saw lots of families out cycling on their trips. So my destination for the day was a campsite in a place called Maribor, and the campsite cost me €10, which is fine. And I've been dodging rain all day. Didn't get rained on when I was cycling, and not been rained on when I've been camping, but it is raining now, and I'm doing this commentary in my tent, so if you can hear any noise, that's the pitter patter of rain on my tent. And it looks like I'm in for rain for most of the night, and I think I've got a 2 hour window in the morning between 9 and 10, which is probably when I'll pack the tent up and leave. Then it's going to rain all day, and I've got a 108 kilometre day, so I'm really looking forward to that. Oh yeah, look at those solar panel field, another good touch. So that's the end of this vlog for today. I'll leave you with some signs of graffiti, because I said I hadn't seen any in Slovenia so far, but I did find some getting to the campsite. So thanks very much for watching the video. Subscribe if you liked it, and I'll speak to you next time. Cheers. Good morning everyone. So as you can see, I have my rain jacket on, which means yes, it's rain. It's not actually raining at the minute, but it rained all night last night. As you can see, the tent's there behind me, still set up at the moment. The tent's perfectly waterproof, the inside's fine. I mean, what else would you expect from a British made tent, really? Come on. But obviously the outside of it is got water on it, so I need to knock the water off, get the outside as dry as I can, pack the tent up so I can get it on the bike and start the day again. And the rest of the bike, and that was clever of me, wasn't it? Put my finger in the way. The rest of the bike is already packed up and ready to go. All my stuff's perfectly dry, so everything's cool. So it's just a matter of trying to get the tent as dry as I can before packing it. Because obviously what will happen, even though it's dry on the inside now, if I roll it up with the wet outside, eventually it's going to make the inside damp as well. So it's always one of those things of what you do. Do you leave it? I could stay here if the weather's going to turn nice and dry the tent out, but it could rain again in 5 minutes. So it's always one of those things. What do you do? So I think in this case, I'm just going to knock the water off and roll it up, and I think it will be good. So I have got a big day today as well, which is great. So I have got 110 kilometers to go to Austria. It's a bit of a miscalculation on my part, I think, but I'll have to do it now. And I think I'm going to get rain from about 2 o'clock onwards as well. And I think rain will be a feature now until I get to Bratislava. I think I'm in for a bad week of weather. So at some point, no doubt I'm going to get soaked. But there we go, all part of the fun, apparently. I will speak to you later, guys. Take it easy. Cheers.
So we hit the road, and it wasn't raining as I left the campground. And the campground, by the way, in Maribor is definitely worth visiting. So if you're going to do a bicycle tour in Slovenia and you're passing through Maribor, I recommend you stay there. It's really well organised and well run. Obviously it was not peak season when I was there, so it was just slightly off peak, but yeah, very good. And as I cycled through Maribor, I realised that the city itself probably deserved a day or 2 days of my time, which unfortunately I didn't have to give on this particular tour, but it's there for the next time. And as I said, I think Slovenia is a great little bicycle touring destination, and I would definitely like to come back for a month or 6 weeks just to check the country out in more detail on the bike. I think there should be some great bicycle touring routes through the country, and it's a lovely place to cycle. Inevitably, the rain did hit me. Just a matter of putting the waterproof gear on and getting on with it, really. It was a bit of a shame because it would have been nice to enjoy the views with a clear blue sky day as my last day in Slovenia, but if it rains, it rains. What else can you do? And I started heading towards the Austrian border, and in front of me it looked like there was a cycling club who were not road cyclists, they're kind of on hybrid bikes. And it must have been a Slovenian club, so it looked like they were going to cycle out of Slovenia into Austria, do some sort of loop and come back. So I ended up following these guys over the border, and the border crossing was very informal. The guy just waved me on and then basically said, hurry up, you can catch them up. So he must have thought I was with their group. So should I have shown the passport or not? I don't know. It's really difficult in Europe to know if you should be showing it or not, because there is this thing called the Schengen area, where once you're inside, technically you don't need to show your passport. But as recent news events have probably shown, with the migrant crisis, etc., etc., those rules can be sidelined somewhat, depending on circumstances. Anyway, I'm into Austria now, and Austria is a country that I visited before when I did my cycle ride from England to Cape Town, and I followed the River Danube mainly at that point. But this is just some random countryside right now. I thought I'd stop off at that river just to show you how full it was with all the water that was falling down. So at this point, as you can see, these houses in Austria, they just lacked the, the distinctive prettiness or the Slovenian touch. Not too sure what the Slovenian touch is. I think it's a lot of windowsill boxes with flowers in, and Austria doesn't seem to have that. But before I talk about Austria, it's probably worthwhile to do a recap of Slovenia. So as I've mentioned, brilliant bicycle touring destination. I would, if somebody was asking me which country in Europe they should do a bicycle tour in, I would definitely say Slovenia. And it's come as a nice pleasant surprise to me, and it's always good to add another country into your favourites, your top 5 favourites list, which it definitely is. So I'd like to return and see a bit more of it. And now then, so we're in Austria and cycling towards a campground that I'm going to be staying in for the night. The aim for the next few days really is just to go through Austria almost as quickly as I can, because I've got an appointment to meet the missus in Bratislava within a couple of days' time. So it'll just be a matter of doing 80 kilometres each day, 100 kilometres camping, and then going on to the next place until I get to Bratislava. But in the meantime, there's some wonderful views as well, of course, and the Austrian countryside is very beautiful, and rolling hills, which I'm sure I'll come to appreciate much more later on. So I'll leave you as I get to the campground. Cheers.
Hi everyone, so the end of a day's ride. That was quite a long one in the end. It was about 110 kilometres. I haven't got the exact score because my GPS ran out of power towards the end, which made finding where I was going very interesting, because obviously I hadn't got any navigation then. But I'm here in the end. I'm staying in a camping place, in a place called Bad Waltersdorf. Yes, excellent name. So this is my first night in Austria, and in the camping shop I said, have you got any food here? And they said, no, just beer. Welcome to Austria. So what I've ended up with is, tonight, some leftover tortilla chip things. I had a bag of chips, had my salsa dip from yesterday, pint of milk, and some whatever that is. So that's going to be dinner tonight until I get to a shop tomorrow, because the other thing is, it's Sunday and all the shops close in Austria on a Sunday, obviously, apart from cafes and restaurants, which I can't go out to because it's now pissing down with rain. But anyway, who cares? The tent's set up and I'm inside in the dry in here. So I'm going to eat my food and make this video for you guys, plan the road ahead, and then get some sleep later on. Take it easy and I'll speak to you later. Cheers for now.